Record.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Kate and Natasha ADP Therapy in the age of the coronavirus. I'm Natasha Pren.
And I'm Kate Halliday. Hi. Hi.
Hi, good to see you everyone. And Kate has come up with a brilliant title for our short and sweet segment. We're going to call it, what are we calling it, Kate? Keeping the
E in Zoom.
Keeping the E in Zoom. How to keep Zoom experiential. So I love that title, and we're going to spell it ZOOME, Zoom, keeping the E in Zoom. So we're just going to talk about some ideas that we're having about how to keep your Zoom therapy, your ADP online experiential. And Kate had some ideas, and I've got some too. Over to you, Kate.
Thank you. Well, actually, my ideas came out of the groups that I was working with this week in Ithaca, and we did some brainstorming. And one of the most interesting things that someone said was that we're used to looking at screens, at least many of us are, to looking at screens and looking at screens about people who are not us, like on television, and we assess them and we evaluate, and we're sort of objectifying the person on the screen. And that it can be very distressing for people to see themselves on a screen, and because they're constantly evaluating themselves. And that made me think about the difference between self-awareness, which is what we're always trying for in ADP, to like bring awareness inside, which is so different from self-consciousness, which makes us feel, which tends to come along with a boatload of judgment or worry or having the gaze from the outside at us. So I thought that was really an interesting distinction. And then what comes out of that when we start having a conversation about it? What do you think, Natasha?
I love that. I mean, because it reminds me of the different feeling, you know, when you try on 42 outfits before you go out, and each one just doesn't feel right, and you're self-conscious looking at yourself. And then once you're out and in the outfit, whatever it is, if you hadn't looked in the first place, you might have been able to just get right into being in the moment in your body, and not kind of doing the, like, I always remember Meryl Streep in some movie, you know, trying to organize her shoulder pads, you know, that once we're in it, we feel fine and we can be self-aware about how we're feeling. But it's not a self-conscious criticizing thing. It's a breathing and inside, almost like inside your back, inside your rib cage, right?
Right. So when we're actually sitting with people and they're out on Zoom, I think it's an interesting dynamic between whether people have their own self-view up, and if that's something that you make explicit, make the implicit explicit, say, what's it like to see yourself? What's it like to not see yourself?
Yes.
And explore that. What's that feel like inside? I mean, it's an interesting place to explore as an ADP therapist. And whatever you get, as Natasha always says, or Diana Fosha said, then you're off to the races. Something's going to happen.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong with what the experience is.
Yeah. And that when you come into experience, then you're back inside awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. One thought somebody else had, what were you going to say, Natasha?
No, go on. Yeah. Yes, another thought. Yes.
One thought somebody else had was that for them as the therapists, the self-view in the corner can be steadying. That, you know, if I as a therapist have my little picture of me in the corner, and I can remember, okay, there you are. This is your job now.
Yes.
That sort of sitting steady in the seat, which I'm sure Danny Young will have talked about by the time we speak with him. It gives ourselves a sense of ourselves as steady as a counterpoint to the client's experience, which might be a bit wobbly. And exploring that too. Like, what's that like to, and people have actually said to me, well, I see how you're just solidly in your seat, even if I'm moving, which I sometimes am. Yeah.
Yes, and to sort of use our energy, our groundedness, by being solid and present as much as we can, to help. I don't have a more sophisticated way of putting that. I was thinking about how I think sometimes I noticed when people are wearing masks, they lose their sense of being able to hear and have an awareness around themselves. And I wonder if something like that happens on Zoom too, where sometimes I feel like I get distracted by myself or by something. So that's the counterpoint to it, you know, that sometimes I wonder about the micro offness of Zoom too, you know?
Yeah. Do you mean when you see your own self view, or just at all?
Just some version of seeing myself and seeing whoever it is. Although it's funny because we get very in sync and I don't notice it as much here with you, Kate, as I do sometimes. I'm not quite sure why that is.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it varies for me from person to person too. Like,
yes.
And from time to time.
Yes.
But maybe just making it, maybe in terms of putting the E in Zoom, making it experiential and keeping inquiring maybe several times during the session. So how is this? Because this is Zoom. and maybe it breaks the spell, which sometimes the spell can get very intimate, but to check it out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great skill, right? To use it a bit more often. That sounds right to me. And I noticed because we're making these short segments that we often do check in and then do some version of, you know, and do it with us, you know, everyone. If you do just.
Right. Right.
Oh, and you also said, Kate, while we were chatting, you know, inviting clients to get up and move in any way they want to off screen so that they have some privacy too. And the shake is such a good way to, to everything. Yes.
Yeah. Feels good too. Right. Right.
Yeah.
And actually, for some people who are so self-conscious, having the opportunity to suddenly be invisible to us was actually kind of luxurious. So that's great.
Yes.
So I looked at the clock, Natasha, and we have to stop.
We have to stop. Yes.
So how has this been, everybody? Check in, notice what's happening inside, be aware.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Kate. I love it when you sort of square me up and we, I love to be sort of twisty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
be well, everybody.
Be well, everyone. Take this into your offices, anything that's useful, and leave the rest behind. Bye for now.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.